Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Warhammer 40k Mercenary Tier 10 Premium Heavy Tank. Well, that was a mouthful. The Leman Russ. So the Leman Russ is a heavy tank that is first and foremost the weirdest looking thing in the universe. It's a Mark 1 chassis with some big ass guns on it, which you can only use this gun, by the way. It's not a multi-weapon system, so these guns do not work. It's just this main cannon, okay? And yeah, this is apparently quite big in the Warhammer 40k universe for the Ultramarines, I want to say. I have no idea about Warhammer. I'm not a Warhammer nerd. I have no idea what's cracking off. I just know that this is a Mark 1 thing. It's an Ultramarine tank. And yeah, you can buy this tank for 16,000 gold. And I do believe this is one of the ones that isn't on discount through the Warhammer Ops. So this is the one that won't change with a discount, I think. Possibly. But, yeah. What is it like as a tank? As a premium tier 10 heavy tank? I think it's pretty decent, to be honest, because it's very, very heavily armoured until it's not. And by that, in the fact that it has a really thick armour, but as soon as people press A, it kind of gets trashed. But if you keep wiggling and making it awkward, this tank's armour becomes very, very awkward to pen when people are shooting at it. And it means that, you know, they take a little bit longer to fire and pen you in the spot that they want to. And it just makes it a little bit more awkward for them to pen you, which gives you more opportunities to survive and get shots off at them. But the gun is a little bit derpy, and the penetration on the standard rounds is a little bit of a letdown at times, especially when you're fighting other heavy tanks. So it's something to be very, very wary of. On the whole, I do think it's okay, but I also think there's other stuff out there that you could probably get that's better, right? And for a premium tier 10 heavy tank, I do think stuff like the Valor's probably better. But if you're a fan of Warhammer 40k, this is probably something you're going to want to get. And if you were just going to buy it anyway because you really want the Leman Russ in your garage, it's pretty okay. Like I said, the armour on it is thick. It's a thick boy, even if it's not very long. The guns hits hard. Its reload's pretty damn good for the alpha. It's just not that accurate, and it's, yeah, penetration lets it down. So, without further ado, I've talked too much. Let's get into the old stats of the Leman Russ. And here we are. 900 horsepower engine with a 35 km/h top speed, 17 km/h reverse speed. The 17 km/h reverse speed is really quite nice. You do go back pretty quickly, and you do hit this 35 km/h top speed with that 15 horsepower per ton ratio, which is nice. Again, you hit, if you've got a slower forward speed, it's always nice to be able to hit it. And it does feel a little bit slow, this Leman Russ, but it's the same top speed as an E5, you know, similar to a Super Conqueror, etc. So it's not the worst out there. And let's say the fact that you actually hit the top speed is nice. And if you need to back round a corner, 17 km/h reverse speed for a heavy tank is pretty damn nice as well. So the mobility on the tank is okay for a heavy tank. You've got 2,500 hit points, which is a big slab of hit points for a tier 10 heavy. So that's a nice thing that you can play with. You've got 26 degrees a second on the hull rotation, which is a little bit slow. You might want to run clutch braking to make that better if you want. You've got 2.1 soft terrain, 1.2 on medium, and 1 on firm. These ground resistances, especially the soft terrain, isn't the best. These two are pretty good. This one isn't that great. But to be honest, you still hit that 35 km/h top speed easily anyway, so you don't really have to run off-road driving to hit it. But it's just something to bear in mind that when you're on soft terrain, it'll go a little bit slower and it'll traverse a little bit worse. In terms of camo, you've got none because you're a heavy tank. So, yeah, there is that. You've got 400 meters view range, which is sound for a tier 10 heavy. That's what a lot of them are starting to pack right at this tier, so 400 meters of view range isn't too bad. You got 22 degrees a second turret rotation, which again is a little bit slow. You do have a pretty slow turret traverse, and it is worse than your tracks. So if you turn the hull, make sure you're turning the turret the same way to be able to get the turret on target as quick as humanly possible. Your accuracy during rotation is 0.79, which actually isn't that bad. So the gun doesn't bloom that much at all when you're turning the tracks. You've got 23 degrees of elevation, which is really quite mentally good, to be honest. 23 degrees of elevation is fantastic. You've got a max depression of 7 degrees, which, for how tall the tank is, can be a bit of a hindrance on a ridgeline at times, because it feels like you should be getting the gun down, but you're really not, because the tank is so tall. But 7 degrees of gun depression isn't like 5 degrees, where it's a bit ugh. 7 degrees is still usable. It means you can still use a ridgeline pretty effectively. You've just got to be careful on what ridgeline you use and how you use the divots in the ground, essentially. But it's that middle terrain where it's sort of, it's not bad, but it's also not good gun depression. It's just sort of, yeah, it's all right. In terms of reload, it's got a 12.6 second reload with a 4.76 rounds per minute rate of fire, 0.36 accuracy, and a 2.65 on the move accuracy, which is pretty not very good, so you want to make that better. You got a 3.1 second aim time as well, which again is long and helps to the derpiness of the gun. So, because 0.36 accuracy, again, for me, once you go in 0.35 and below, that's where you're starting to go, this gun is accurate. Once you're going above 0.35, you're starting to go, the gun's getting a little bit more derpy now and likes to miss more shots. So the 0.36 accuracy with that 3.1 second aim time, added into 830 meters a second on the shell velocity on its standard AP rounds, makes the gun feel derpy at range. And the gun definitely won't feel that nice at range at all, especially when you're having to hit the weak spots with the weak pen it's got on the standard rounds. So, it's got 232 pen on its AP rounds, with 304 pen on its premium APCR rounds, which 304 pen on the APCR rounds is okay. You'll pen everything you're going to face with 304 pen. 232 on the AP pen, though, is exceptionally low for a tier 10 heavy tank. Most tier 10 heavies are packing that 250 plus, so there's a lot of tanks that you're going to struggle to pen, and you've got to bear that in mind when you're firing at them. If you're firing at yourself as a Leman Russ, you're wanting to fire premium, because firing at yourself with 232 pen, you're not going to pen yourself frontally unless you get yourself, you know, the tank over angles, essentially. So if you see a Leman Russ and you're in a Leman Russ, fire premium. And generally, if you're in another tank and you're firing at a Leman Russ, fire premium and you'll pen it, because that's just the way the armour works. It's Type 5 heavy-ish in the way that the armour works. It's exceptionally thick, heavy armour, and it will bounce a lot, but as soon as people press aim and fire premium, it gets penned a hell of a lot. The only thing that you can do is wiggle to try and make it better. But I digress. We'll get to the armour in a second. So yeah, that 232mm of AP pen is, yeah, not the best. 2.3k DPM, by the way, or 2.4k DPM base is pretty damn nice for this heavy tank, especially with 500 alpha. As you see, you got 500 alpha on the AP and 650 on the HE, which has a slightly slower meters a second shell velocity on the 787 on the HE, and 918 on the APCR, by the way, so it's 100 better than the AP. But yeah, that's really the downside to this tank, is that penetration, and to be competitive against a lot of the heavy tanks at the tier, you're going to be firing this premium round. And because this tank is fairly derpy at range, it wants to be close in and brawling, and especially with the armour being thick, you're going to want to be close in and brawling. And yeah, the 304 pen is the stuff that you're probably going to use against most tier 10 heavy tanks, because I mean, really, if you're shooting at a Super Conqueror, you can pen them with 232. You're firing at the front of an E5, you're not really going to pen it with 232 that easily. Same as E100s, IS7s, IS4s, definitely no way. 277s, possibly with the 232 in the lower plate. There's so many heavy tanks that you're just not going to pen with 232, so you're going to have to carry a decent amount of 304 APCR pen and realise that this tank is possibly, when you're in those more brawly situations against heavies of your own tier, you're probably going to need the premium rounds. So let's have a quick look at the armour after the main stats. So yeah, like I say, you can see here that it's a thick boy in terms of its armour. And this is the 300mm plates. This is the thickest part of the armour, and that is this lower plate here. But by the way, it's pretty flat. So that is 300mm of armour, probably, what, if you're facing it head on, 310 effective, maybe less than that. So you think about most tanks that have, at tier 10, 310mm of armour piercing, or, you know, of penetration. 310mm plus of penetration on their premium rounds. They're going to butter this lower plate. Absolutely trash it. And also, they'll pen these spots here, which you can pen the tank with. And as you can see, the turret is slightly thick at 270. The upper plate here, this is 250 sloped, right? So because there's no armor inspector for this tank, I don't know what the effective is on it. But I've had most tanks that have been firing premium at me, which a lot of people have when I'm playing this tank, that have over 300mm of penetration on their rounds, and they're facing me straight on like this. They go straight through this section here most times, which is, again, very, very frustrating, pretty much. If you're facing head on as well, the best place to shoot this tank is possibly this gun here, so you straight through the gun into this section here, or on either side of here, so these two sections here. You will pen this tank with 250, 260 pen through those sections. Okay, you will pen this tank with 250 to 260 pen. Which can be annoying again, but they're weak spots, so that is what it is. And in terms of the armor on the lower plate here, this section here, it's got 175mm of armor. Again, it's very, very well angled, though. Look at the angle on that. I've been shooting other Leman Russes with this, firing the premium, and I've penned that probably half of the time. I seem to pen it and then just ricochet other shells. Because of the angle, it's more likely to ricochet your shells, so it's something to be careful of. But yeah, you just shoot through this gun here, or these two guns on the side, and you'll have a good time. And also, because the gun in the middle is also only 175 on this inner section, and then it is 30mm of armor on this outer section, if you're angling like this round a corner, and this is covered up, and you're thinking, well, I'm well angled, people will pen you here really easy as well. So if these things come at you sort of sideways like this, shoot them in this section here if you've not got that shot at the gun here. Shoot them there, and you will pen it as well. The armor on this tank, like I say, is really good until it's not. It's Type 5 heavy-ish in that way that you'll rack up some really big block damage games in this tank. And I've had, you know, decent block damage games already in this tank. But it'll be frustrating in the fact that a lot of the blocked isn't down to you. It's down to the enemy not aiming properly or not firing the right kind of rounds. Like the Type 5 heavy, the Type 5 heavy blocks a hell of a lot of damage. But as soon as people fire premium and shoot it in the right place, they absolutely wreck it. In terms of the armor, it will be a tier 8 stomper. So tier 8s will struggle with this quite a lot. Unless they're firing premium, they've got 260, 270 pen. Yeah, tier 8s will struggle with this, and you'll absolutely slap them up with the fantastic DPM that this thing has, and the, you know, the alpha in general, and the fact that your armor works pretty good. So in terms of recruit on this tank, I have put it in the Reaper's Scythe. So we're going to go here, assign it to the Leman Russ, just like that. And as you can see, we've got Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Trap Mechanic, Clutch Braking, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun. So Clutch Braking to make the track traverse better because it is very slow at turning. So I'll try and make it a little bit better with the Clutch Braking. It only gets like 2 degrees a second better on the track traverse, but every little helps. All these perks to make the gun handling as good as humanly possible, because like I say, the gun can be very troll at times, so I just want to make the gun handling as good as possible, and it's a heavy tank, and it kind of relies on that. Trap Mechanic, because you get tracked a lot because of the way the tracks look, and the fact that if people shoot you in those tracks, and the fact that they're big tracks, as you can see here, they will pen you and track you. Well, they won't pen you, but they'll track you. So in terms, that's what we run in terms of recruit, and in terms of equipment, I've been running the advanced loader for that 10% better DPM, the gun stabilizer for the better on the move and turret rotation, essentially, and optics to be able to spot for myself, because I want to be able to spot for myself. But realistically, if you don't want to run optics and you're not really that bothered about that, run vents to make everything about the tank better, or run the traction system, to get you up to 38 kilometers an hour top speed and have even better track traverse again. Totally up to you. Again, that's down to personal preference. I just don't like being blind, so I spot for myself, pretty much. So let's have a quick look at the stats of the tank when it's fully pimped out. And as you can see, our track traverse has gone up to 28.34 degrees a second, which is okay, but it's still not brilliant. Our ground resistances have gone down a little bit. Our view range has gone up to 512 meters of view range, which is, like I say, probably overkill, which is where you might want to run the vents to make everything else better instead, and still give you the view range, and you'll get up to like, what, 460, 470, something like that, with the vents. and situational awareness, etc. So it's still pretty good view range, and you still spot for yourself, so it might be better to do that and make everything else better, essentially, with it. So totally up to you, personal preference. As you can see, the turret rotation is at 23.89 now. The accuracy during rotation is down to 0.42 from that 0.7 it was, which is definitely nice. A 9.19 second reload time. Like I say, if you run vents, that'll be even lower, which is great. 3.2, nearly 3.3k DPM with that setup, by the way, is absolutely fantastic for this tank. 0.29 accuracy, which is quite nice. Again, it still feels a little bit derpy just because of the shell velocity, but 0.29 accuracy is good. 1.51 accuracy on the move, 1.51 accuracy during movement is really so much better because of the vert stabs and run and gun. It's like over 1 better. 2.85 second aim time as well. Realistically, if the aim time kills you as well, you could run a GLD and knock that down even further if you wanted to. That's, again, it's totally up to you, personal preferences, etc, etc. So yeah, that's all the stats for the Leman Russ that I have for the tank. And like I say, in general, I think the tank's pretty okay. It'll be a frustrating one to play for some people because, like I say, the armour is very Type 5 heavy-ish in that it just seems to get penned a lot, and then sometimes it feels like you're an absolute god among men. And yes, you do worship the Emperor, obviously, so it is what it is. So as always, everybody, I'm going to send you over to the replays where you can make your own judgment on the tank. You can decide whether I'm talking a load of codswallop or whether you think, actually, yeah, this tank looks pretty good, I'm going to spend the 16,000 gold on it. Or you can decide to, you know, wait and get the discounts on any of the other 4 tanks that are out for the Warhammer. And by the way, I will be doing a review a day on these tanks, so for the next 5 days you're going to have a review on all of the tanks. Leman Russ was first because it's kind of special in the way that it is. Realistically, it's its own unique tank as opposed to sort of a different version of a similar tank in the game. And yeah, I'll probably do a poll on my community section for you guys to decide what's next for the reviews, probably. So there we go. So I'll see you in the replays, my friends. So here we are on the replays with the Leman Russ, and this first game is on Nominee Nom. And the reason I'm showing this first game is because this game's more of the one that's a bit more at odds with the way that the Leman Russ wants to be played, and that is it's going to be played a little bit more at distance, which is where the gun doesn't really want to work, and the game goes just that little bit quickly for it, which is, again, where it can struggle because it's a heavy tank and it doesn't have the best top speed. I mean, 35 kilometers an hour is pretty okay for a tier 10 heavy, realistically, because for one that's so heavily armoured anyway, right, because obviously there's lots of tanks that have got faster top speeds, but you've got stuff like the, you know, the E5 on 37, which is comparatively armoured probably with it, you know, T-47 heavies at 37 as well. And then you've got stuff like the Panzer 7 and the Panzer, well, the VK7201K that are at 33, the AMX M4 54, which is 40 kilometers an hour, but they got the Andre the Giant version, which is probably as heavily armoured as this tank, and that is 35 kilometers an hour. So it's in that same sort of ballpark, right, of top speed. So the speed of it isn't actually that bad. And like I said, the armour on it is one of those that seems to work and then it doesn't. So this game is going to go a little bit too quickly for us, and it's going to be one of those where we get to the flank and find that not too much has come this way, and then we sort of struggle to get back into the fight. Starts off pretty well, though, with that poor Centauro 45T that gets caught out in the open. I'm not quite sure what he was doing in that position on this map. Probably didn't look at the spawns, to be honest, but we managed to get 2 shots in and shut him down. Our 232 penetration there, not letting us down, which is nice. It's always nice when the gun works. And we've got our first kill of the game. So we're going to poke up here and see if we can get some shots at these guys. Unfortunately, that shot at the Charioteer just absolutely whiffs. I mean, I know it wasn't the most fully aimed shot in the universe, but the gun could have just behaved for us there. We try and get a shot at the Jagdpanther 2, and that one didn't actually go anywhere near it. That was weird. I mean, I know that it was a very, very slim shot to take at that guy, but it didn't go anywhere near where I was aiming. That was really odd, but it is what it is. So I'm just going to sit in this position, kind of because I'm like, you know what, shoot at me, people. I want to see what it's like with the armour. Shoot at me and see if I can block things. But unfortunately, nothing's really coming to shoot at me. Finally, the E5 pops around. we pop a shot at the E5 and it ends up just going really low and only tracking him, which is, again, annoying for firing at distance. And this is where I go, you know what, screw it. I just fired at these distances. I'm annoyed with that. I'm just going to go and get as close as humanly possible because that's where this tank wants to be. Unfortunately, we end up bouncing there. We end up hitting the upper plate, not the lower plate of the E5, so we ended up bouncing. We're still only on 659 damage. And this is where having that 35 km/h top speed is just a little bit slow. Because I'm like, please, I need to get there. I want to get there and get the damage. I mean, we're tootling along at 34 km/h, realistically, actually. But with the fact that we're on sort of a little bit of an incline and stuff like that, that's okay. As you can see, this A5 is getting turned around by the T100 LT. Charioteer in front of me is also penning in. I'm thinking, please just let me get there to get a shot into this E5 before the Charioteer gets a shot at him. But unfortunately not. And he ends up getting shut down. The Jagdpanther 2 gets spotted at the back, so we managed to slap a shot at him for 548, which is really nice. The Jagdpanther 2 then slaps a standard shell at us, which pens us somewhere and damages our turret, which is what I'm saying, where this armour on this tank is like... It's good, but at the same time, sometimes you sit there going, why did that pen? How did that person just pen me? Because that was an AP round from a Jagdpanther 2, which has 246 penetration, and it penned me somewhere around my turret, and obviously broke my turret. So the oddities around the armour on this tank, like I say, it can be really good and at the same time really frustratingly not at all. So we managed to get a shot into that Rheinmetall Panzerwagen, which was nice. Puts us up to 1,692 damage, 1,468 assistance so far because we've got a bit of assistance on him. And I think we might have spotted the equaliser as he started firing at us as well. I knew the equaliser was somewhere in that corner, but to be honest, even though I was still RT detected, I thought, no, that artillery is going to be running away, right? Surely he's going to run away rather than trying to get shots at me. I was wrong. He was trying to shoot us. But I thought, you know what, I can't see him. I'm just not going to bother. We're going to keep going towards the main body of the enemy tanks. So as you can see, there's the E75 that was spotted at E3. There was another heavy tank at E1, and we're just coming around on the side of this Conqueror here, who's just taken a hit, and he's gone. So we couldn't quite get there to get a shot at him, unfortunately. There's a 50 TP at E1, which is going to be fairly awkward for us to pen with 232 pen, and we'll make it a little bit awkward. We're just aiming the gun. As you can see, it takes a while to get fully aimed with that 3.2 aim time. And we slap a shot at him, and unfortunately it doesn't pen, it only tracks. And like I say, it's fairly awkward. We can just about pen that driver's hatch with the 50 TP, just at the way he's angled. We can actually pen that with the 232 pen. But frontally, he is a very awkward customer for us to pen. We've got one pen into him. Unfortunately enough, he turns his turret to the side, and we managed to pen at the side of his turret. When I got spotted, I was just happy to sit there against the 50 TP and just say, hey, again, try and shoot me and try and pen me, see if you can do it, because it's one of those where sometimes they do know how to pen you, and they can just easily pen you, and sometimes they don't. We're up to 2.6k damage of 1,468 assistance. There's only one tank left on the enemy team. It's a Centurion AVRE, and he has no kills. So I was thinking, I know my team swept through the corner when they went for the equaliser, but nobody went through the town along the K line. So my thought was maybe he's AFK in their base somewhere in the town that nobody could see him. He's just hidden behind, he spawned behind one of the houses or something. Or he's not AFK and he's just hiding in the town. So we're going to go trundle through the town and see if we can find him. If we don't find him in the town, it's really awkward. I didn't think he could be anywhere else because, well, quite frankly, our team had such control of the whole map that I didn't think there's anywhere else he could be hiding. So this is where I think he is in the town. But unfortunately for me, he gets spotted at E7. And our guys were starting to try and cap against the AVRE, but he's in a position where he can just start derping away at them and resetting them every time. And I'm looking at it going, there's a chance I could still get there and get a shot at him. Because unless he starts getting derped, and a lot of them are tier 8s and 9s, and AVRE is a bit tricky to shoot at, I might still be able to get there and get a shot at him while he's on the ridgeline. As you can see, he's still quite healthy at 1,247. I'm thinking, what's he been doing this entire... How did he only just get spotted on that ridge? But we're going to try and get a shot at him. There we go. We get to see his side of his turret. We're aiming. And unfortunately, we didn't wait for it to be fully aimed, and the shot just whiffs his turret. Pretty much most of the reticle was his ground. Was his ground? Yes, his ground. Most of the reticle was his turret or the ground. So I was expecting to either hit the ground or his turret, not fly over it, but there we go. And unfortunately, we didn't get another shot in that game. When we finished with the epic victory, it wasn't so epic, really. And, yeah, 2.6k damage, 2 kills, 1400 assistance, 1045 base XP. Really not a very good game at all for the Leman Russ, and that's the type of game that happens quite a bit in this at tier 10, and that is where you have to chase it, and we couldn't keep up with it, essentially, and we made some poor choices with our shots as well, and that meant that just generally we didn't really have that good of a game. So we're on to the second replay, and this second replay is on this map, which is Kasserine. And on Kasserine, we are going to go into this alleyway at G7. And I want to go down here because I was thinking, well, I can get up on top at H7, or was it G8, and get in that little nook there. You can shoot down at people that go at H9, or along that little area where they spawn, or you can turn around and shoot people along this little canyon. And this is the main reason that I really picked this replay, and that is that there's another Leman Russ right there. Hello, Mr. Leman Russ. With my 232 pen, I am going to struggle to pen this guy. And you're going to see me experiment. Realistically, this man is going to become my guinea pig. And I start to experiment firing the 232 pen and the 303 pen APCR round. And I start shooting in different places with it. So you can see, I can see the gun, try and pop a shot, and we do tracks only because, well, it was just an awkward shot to take anyway. We are going to go around and try and pop another standard AP round at this Leman Russ. And you can see I'm aiming for the gun, but unfortunately wiggling. This is the key thing for the... He just randomly... He pens us really easily, by the way. Just out there. This is the key thing to the armor on the Leman Russ, is that we load premium, we go straight through that gun on the side with the premium. And I think, you know, I'm going to load AP and see if I can go through that gun on the side again with the AP. The armor on this tank is a wiggler. You have to wiggle to make it as hard as possible for the enemy team to hit your weak spots, and you'll have a good time at blocking loads of shots. So you can see I load the premium again, and we go straight through that gun on the front. And this is what I'm saying, if you have that 280 to 290 plus pen, or even less than that, 270 plus pen, like this chieftain in front of me, just shoot the gun. Shoot that gun. Shoot any of the guns that you see, essentially, except for the main cannon, and you will go straight through it. Which is where the tier 8s and stuff like that will start to struggle with it, because, you know, their pen will struggle with that sort of area. But tier 10s and other tier 9s will easily go through those gun ports. So you can see we also penned around straight through the lower plate because we're aiming up into it with that 303 pen. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to leave that Leman Russ to the chieftain. And he gets actually shut down by the M60 on the other bit. We're going to push into what we know is a heavy tank somewhere on the left and other stuff on the right. So you can see this TNH VZ51 bounces a shell off our side there, because again it's fairly awkward to get a shot at it to pen it. He ends up bouncing another shot because he was stock, by the way. You could tell by his turret and his gun he was stock, so he actually really struggled to pen us, and we shut down that TNH. Now there's a Projector 54, a tier 8 heavy tank. Again, he is going to struggle to pen us whatsoever in the front. It's where this tank is fairly awkward. There is a cupola on top, as you can see. That can be penned, but it's a very, very awkward pen. So we get up behind this 277, who clearly hadn't got a clue that me and this other Leman Russ were here. Got a shot in to track him. The other Leman Russ got a shot into him, which is nice. Put him on 1,000 hit points, and he's realised his mistake. We get a shot into the T95E6, who was running to try and get a shot at us. We're up to 3.7k damage with 891 assistance. We get a shot straight through the lower plate there of the 277, which is nice with our standard rounds. Like I say, you can get pens on these guys like that, but sometimes it can be a bit of a problem with the standard rounds. So we come over the top into this 277, and this is where I'm thinking, the gun depression. Okay, no, it didn't work. We end up bouncing on him. As you can see, he goes straight through the gun. He goes straight through that gun on the front and knocks us down to 628 hit points, as well as taking a hit from that T95E6. The 277 then comes for us and shoots us straight through that gun on the front again. And he's firing standard, by the way. So this is what I mean. If anyone's got 260 pen around that area, 250 pen, they'll go straight through that gun port on the front, and that can make it really awkward. But if you keep wiggling, as you can see, he shot us in that gun port again, he bounced. So it's just wiggle. You have to keep wiggling to make the most of the armor. But sometimes it will decide it just doesn't want to work. We're up to 5.6k damage with 1,000 assistance. Also, that was the best piece of driving you ever seen. It was totally meant to absolutely bamboozle him so he bounced off my armour. That's exactly what I meant, right? I won't hear it that was terrible driving. No. It was perfect. And we managed to get rid of him, which means it worked. So, fabulous times. So, as you can see, that T95E6 is in a bit of an awkward spot. He's managed to get into a position where I can't actually get a shot at him properly to pen him anymore. But he's managing to get shots at us. And you can see, because we're really well angled, even firing in his heat, he's struggling to pen us because he's just snapping the shots in. If you do angle the armour, it can be awkward for them. We are getting fortunate the artillery hasn't hit us yet. Realistically, it's because the 2 dead wrecks in front of us help a lot. But we decided, you know what, I'm going to back off. I'm going to back off because we're just going to say, screw it. That guy can't shoot us, the artillery can't shoot us, but I do want to get rid of that T95E6 because that will help us move on to getting the Tyran and the other tanks around their other spawn. I feel like the Tyran is busy with my other heavy tanks on the other flank, so you know what? He's going to be distracted. Let's go get rid of the T95E6. I mean, we've got up to 5.6k damage with 1,000 assistance, 4k blocked. That's like, you can build up a lot of block damage with this thing if it goes right. We end up getting spotted and detected. And unfortunately, the Tyran wasn't actually distracted with the guys behind us, and he ends up poking over and shooting us. And we finished with the victory anyway. The team carried it through to the end. We get the 3 kills, 5.6k damage, decent amount for the Leman Russ. And we, get the 1,200 assistance, 3 kills, 5.6k damage. The second class, the high caliber, 1,464 base XP. A pretty decent game for the Leman Russ. That game realistically showed off how the armour works and then it just doesn't. And you can keep working people over with the gun, and that's where the DPM is really nice. When you get things you can pen, you can start slapping out that 500 alpha really reliably and just keep smashing the damage out. And it's really, really nice for those sorts of brawling situations, especially when you can pen things with that 232 pen. And you're not having to struggle against things like E100s or IS7s, etc., where you will have to fire the premium rounds. But with that 277, firing at the first Leman Russ, and then also with the 277, you saw where the armour is really awkward, because it's so good, it's so thick, but at the same time, it really isn't, because the premium span will absolutely destroy it, especially when they fire at the same places. And you saw that 277 wasn't even firing premium. He bounced a lot of shells, especially when he rushed it, or when I had my driving accident, but that made the angles and actually hitting that gun port really awkward. He's got 265 pen on his standard AP round, which is, around the standard pen for a lot of the heavy tanks. And he just started butchering that gun port when I came over to attack him really, really easily. Because it's a big target to hit. Same as the side sponsons. Those side sponsons are really big targets to hit. So if people are firing premium, or firing even 260, 270 pen, standard rounds, which again a lot of tier 10s have, they will pen those guns, and they're very big targets again. You just have to make it as awkward as humanly possible for them to hit those spots. By wiggling, like the Leman Russ was when I was shooting at him originally, it makes it awkward for him to get those shots. So we're in the third replay, and there's only one more replay after this. We are on Great Wall, and there's another Leman Russ in front of us. It's Iggy. Iggy runs the Wotconsole's Facebook group, if you didn't know, by the way. I didn't realise it at the time. I was looking at it and going, hang on a minute, I recognise that tag. Yeah, he runs the Wotconsole's Facebook group. Shout out to that guy. Full class there. And yeah, we're in a bit of an awkward spot. We got a nice shot into the Bayer as he was running across in front of us, but we gave the side of our turret to Iggy in his Leman Russ, and now Iggy's in a situation where he's by himself, which is kind of awkward. I'm not firing premium at this point, so I try and pop a shot through the gun on the front, which bounces, and now he is running away from the marauding teammates of mine. But then there's this object 432 on the left, which makes me not want to drive into a crossfire, if I'm totally honest. So I'm going to drive so that I can try and angle for a shot at this 430 version 2. So we slap a shot through the front of the 430 version 2. We are still firing premium because I thought, well, if Iggy drives around in the Leman Russ, I'm not going to be able to pen it with the standard round, so I'm keeping the premium round in to make sure that I can pen if he does drive round, and we keep slapping the shots into this 430 version 2. Even firing the standard round at the 430 version 2 at the sort of angle he's at, it's going to be a little bit awkward with the standard rounds, but he keeps giving me his drive wheel, so you know what? I can pen his drive wheel with 232. I'm going to switch back to the standard so I have it for when I need it, what the premium rounds that is. We get a big shot through his drive wheel there, which puts him down to a one shot. He starts angling up for a shot at me. He is firing his 340 pen heat, I should say, which made me just sort of drive away because I was like, I'm not taking another hit from you. We're taking 1 or 2 already because he just butchered the armor. And yeah, he's gone. And this is one of those awkward games because it's 11-9 currently. They have more tanks, but where are they? Most of them seem to be on the other flank. So it's like, okay, you know what, we're going to push through the middle and push up to this rock over here to see if we can get some shots at those that are on the hill, or try and spot up those that are in front of me over here. So we bounced a shot off the 705 upper plate there because we didn't really aim it that well. And it's going to be a bit of a struggle to pen this 705 with standard rounds. But you know what, if he's giving me his lower plate, I can pen him with the AP. I can pen him with the APCR even easier. And this guy starts to play smart with his tank. He starts to do it correctly, which is he starts to side scrape with the 705, which is exactly what you want to be doing. You can bounce a hell of a lot of shots with the 705 doing that. And they decide, you know what? I don't know if I want to keep dealing with this guy, because my team is coming around on the right. As you can see, they're going to start getting into a position where they can shoot him and pen him. And I get that feeling that I just had that sixth sense there that I was getting flanked. I knew that on the map there had been something spotted at D4, so I thought, well, I think it's probably going to be coming to try and flank me. Unfortunately enough for me, I actually turned just in time for that chisel to come round. He did the right thing though. He got round our side and penned us, but unfortunately for him, he drove around in front of my team. Now there's a VZ55 coming round for us, and I'm like, I fire at lower plate of the VZ55. 232 pen did not do very well against the lower plate of the VZ55, and it won't generally. We then pop a shot at the AVRE, which unfortunately bounces off his side, which is really irritating. And I think this VZ55 just doesn't get how quickly I reload, essentially. Naturally, he's not seen this tank. He probably won't do that again against this tank, but he didn't realise that I reloaded pretty quickly, so he thought he had more time to try and get a double tap into me, and we ended up shutting him down in his side. But yeah, 232 pen, especially at the angle it was at, we weren't going to pen the VZ55, which is kind of annoying. We do get a shot into the side of the Type 4 Heavy. You can see that one ricochets, and then we start getting blind fired here, and it's like, oh, that's kind of awkward. Leave me alone. Don't blind fire me. Just kind of waiting for our team to spot them up. Then we end up bouncing a shot there from something that's over there. The Kanonen Jagdpanzer 105 gets spotted, which we slap a big shell in for 457. Then the Centurion AVRE's coming. It's like, oh, good God. Well, he can't pen me pretty much at all, unless he gets my side or rear. So we try and go for the cupola on top, but unfortunately we end up ricocheting off the top of the AVRE. We make sure we're going to pen this shot into his turret roof, and that's good because that will make it so that it only requires 2 more shots. We get another shot into his turret roof, which puts him down to a 1-shot. We load the HE because we managed to survive his second shot, which killed 2 crew members without penning, by the way. We managed to survive his second shot. We load the HE so that no matter where we hit him, as long as we didn't hit the shovel on the front, we were going to kill him. We shut down the AVRE, and unfortunately, just as we shut down the AVRE, the Waffly 100 drives around the corner and just shuts us down because he's got really good pen. He'll pen us pretty much anywhere. But we finished the game with 4 kills, the 6,000 damage, high caliber, the sniper, the first class, 608 base XP, 1,487 assistance on top. That's what, 7.5k combined. Really nice game for the Leman Russ. That game showed off its brawling capacity and where it can be pretty damn nice. And the fact that even against AVREs, you can laugh at them because they can't pen you unless they get the rear or the side of you realistically. And you will pen their turret roof, especially with how tall you are. And if they face hug you, you can pen their cupola quite a lot. So we're into the 4th and final replay. And this is the best game I've had in the tank so far. And we're on Erlenberg. And on Erlenberg, it can be a little bit painful for tanks that have got no mobility. Or should I say, it's not no mobility. It's harsh to say no mobility. They've got slower mobility. Because it's a little bit harder to get into those sorts of situations to try and break the Erlenberg camp, which can happen. Because Erlenberg is one of those where, yeah, the camp can happen, and it's very difficult to break the camp once it gets fully set in, because it becomes quite difficult to get to those positions where you can spot it. So as you can see, we're moving into a position to try and shoot anything that's crossing the JK, but nothing's crossing the JK, and we end up getting spotted and spot this M48A5 in the middle of the map. And it's like, what are you doing there, sir? That's kind of an awkward spot for you. We try and get a cheeky shot into his rear, but, well, we only track him, and realistically, we were never going to pen that. And he gets safe behind that building. So I decided, you know what? Look at where our team is. They've pushed aggressively along that section, along the H line, JK line. They've not seen anything. And we've got quite a few people have gone to the other flank as well, which is really helpful, especially for this push we're about to do. And I think that most of the team seems to have just pushed to D9. Okay, you know what? We're gonna break the Erlenberg camp. We're gonna push the position that breaks the Erlenberg camp quite reliably. So we're gonna push across here, and my angle is to get to E6, is to get into that little nook on my left. But we're not spotting this Centurion AVRE. And I get a nice shot into him. 387, by the way. That's quite the low roll there for 500 alpha. Yeah, okay. But we do reload quite quickly. I don't think he's realised that I'm here. He would have turned to shoot at me at any point here. This little nook on my left is what I want to get into, because that will get me safe from any shots that will come my way. As you can see, we'll just keep pummeling shots into this AVRE. That man must have advanced armour or the armour angling perks. We've low rolled significantly all 3 shots against that man. That's where you don't know if people are running it or not, but I assume it must have been, because we really didn't roll for very well at all against that guy. But I decided, you know what? I'm going to make the aggressive position play, because look at where my team is. They are pushed quite aggressively into positions where they could shoot this hill in front of me. So you know what? I decide I'm pushing it aggressively. I keep myself front and centre, those guys in front of me, behind that building, so I can get to this ridge line in front and get hull down and safe. Once I get into this little dip directly in front of me, the guys on my left cannot shoot me. But the guys in front can if they try and get me. But they have to overexpose to do it. We've got a lot of team along that 4 line. If they try and get over to shoot me, they're going to lose a lot of hit points very quickly. And like I say, I can pop over here, stay safe from the guys on the left, and I can also spot all the guys that might be hiding at J9. As you can see, this 430 version 2 comes over. He gets a shot into our side, trying to get flank round us. But my team is looking this way because, well, there's not much else they can shoot at this point. So we managed to get rid of that 430 version 2. The T100LT drives over and ends up doing ammo rack damage, which is really frustrating because we kind of need the DPM at this point. We're up to 2.7k damage and 2.6k assistance, because this position will gain us a lot of spotting if people start shooting at us. And we're nearly reloaded, so, you know, I'm thinking, okay, that light tank's not going to do that again. Let's poke over and see if we can get a shot at someone. So we just look for a shot at the Centurion. We'll see if the Centurion can see us. He can't quite get any shots at us at this minute. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to slap a big shot into that Terran, because we want to get rid of that Terran, because the Terran will be difficult to spot, and our team will get peppered by him. And the T100LT actually YOLOs past us, and I was thinking, I didn't expect him to do that whatsoever. And he runs away. He only did track damage this time. We reloaded again, though, so it's like, okay, I'm going to poke over, get a shot into this Centurion 7-1. And unfortunately, 232 pen ends up rearing its ugly head. For most other pens, that would have been an easy pen, but because we didn't quite have the pen to pen it at the angle it was at there, the Centurion 7-1, we ended up ricocheting, which is really quite annoying. The T100LT does it again. He just drives past us, which is such a suicide play, because if I'd been loaded, because he's literally just doing circles, he didn't even know that I'd fired at that point. If I'd been loaded there, I probably would have got to shut him down, but for him, fortunately enough, I wasn't. We tried to get a cheeky shot at the Terran underneath the dead wreck of the AVRE, but we can't quite get the shot in. This time, we do get the shot in to shut down that pesky T100LT. It's like, goodbye, Mr. T100. Get out of here. We're up to 4.5k spotting with 4k damage. We're just looking for a shot into the side of this Leman Russ's turret. Unfortunately, we don't quite get it. Then their Terran comes over and just slaps a shot straight through our frontal plate, firing heat there. Naturally, like I say, he will just absolutely butcher our armour, even firing standard rounds. So I pop over, get a shot into the Terran, because I want to get rid of this guy, which puts him down to a one-shot for me. And again, fortunately enough, someone Well, he tries to overexpose to get another shot at me, and he gets shut down by one of my teammates. We're up to 5.6k assistance now. We're just looking for a shot at this M60, but we get spotted and detected. I'm thinking that's something behind me, which is the Centauro, as you see. He's poking over to try and shoot the guys along the JK line, but because I'm spotting him, I'm also getting the assistance on him, which is nice. The M60 is trying to get a shot at us. We're trying to snap a shot into him. Unfortunately, we end up missing there. The snapshot war is not really what the Leman Russ is going to be any good at. You really want to make sure that the gun is aimed to get as much damage as you can, because it gets a little bit awkward when you're trying to snap the shots. But the other Leman Russ is trying to get shots at us. We're at 737 hit points, which is why it's a little bit awkward at times. We don't want to lose too many hit points too fast. But I decided, you know what, I'm going to poke over and I'm going to shut down the Centauro. But unfortunately, we end up missing the Centauro and only doing track damage on the Leopard, which is really odd because we weren't quite aimed. So I'm going to poke over and get another shot into the Leopard. But unfortunately, we end up hitting the Valor, or the T95 FV4201 there, and only tracking him, which is, again, really annoying because we don't quite get the damage on that guy. Then the Leman Russ actually pens us, which is sad because that means we're now a one-shot, and we do have to be careful. We load the premium, though, so that we can guarantee go through this Leman Russ if we get that awkward shot at him. We do slap the shot through his side, 534, which is really nice. Again, the alpha on this gun is really nice. And we're going to try and poke over to get a shot at this M60, which we do. We shut down the M60, which leaves only 2 tanks left, which are directly in front of us. We've got the premium rounds in still because we're going to struggle with the FV4201 T95 if we don't have the premium rounds in, and we get the shot in to shut that guy down. Only 1 tank left on the enemy team. It's the Leopard 1. He gets shut down by the 430U, and we have a really great game for the Leman Russ on Erlenberg. We finish with the victory, 3 kills, 5.7k damage, 5.9k assistance, ace tanker patrol duty, the high caliber, the Confederate, sorry, 1831 base XP. A really great game for this tank, which was like, what, 11.5k combined? Really nice game. Yeah, the Leman Russ, it's a pretty solid heavy tank at tier 10. It has its flaws in the fact that the armour is type 5 heavy-ish and it gets butchered by premium spam. Also, the penetration or the standard rounds is very disappointing, but it is what it is. If you like Warhammer 40k, you'll probably like this tank. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!